Yo, I'm gonna make a quick video about 3 different ways to sidechain and different reasons that you would use these different sidechain techniques. Pretty much what sidechaining is in this situation is just I'm gonna use this kick to duck the volume of this synth. So here's the synth, just a 3x oscillator, and then here's the kick. If they're playing at the same time and you look down at my analyzer, you'll see that as the kick plays, the synth stays the same volume, which is like what would make sense to happen. So the first way is just an automation clip, and I'm just going to start by going and linking this 3x oscillator. We'll just put it on channel 3, and I'm going to put a fruity balance on there, which is literally just controlling the volume of whatever's coming through that channel. And I'm going to create an automation clip out of the default. So once I do that, I'm just going to copy the value of this first point and paste it pretty roughly at the start and end point of the kick. Obviously that's not right on there. And then all you got to do is just go create one more point, and you can just kind of eyeball it. That's pretty much how much it's going to duck. For this I want to be a little bit more accurate, so I'm going to take the value of this point, copy it, and just put it right at the end of the kick, so that by the time the kick ends, the synth's definitely back to its full volume. And so now take a look at my analyzer again, and watch what's happening to the synth as it plays. So you can see the kick is creating room for itself by taking the volume away from that synth. The only reason I honestly wouldn't use this trick is because sometimes, you know, we start to get the kick into a little bit more of like a live groove. Maybe they're a little bit late or early, and then you have to go in and you just have to make sure that these are perfectly lined up. It can get a little bit messy making those adjustments, and so for a super straightforward kick pattern like this, just like a 4 on the floor thing, this is a great way to go. If it starts to get a little bit more intricate in the kick pattern, or the pattern of whatever you're sidechaining, that's where you probably want to use one of these next methods. So the other way, and probably most common way that I do my sidechain, is with a limiter. So in order to do that, you have to have both things linked to the mixer. So right here is that kick, and then here's the synth. Once again, I'm just going to delete this balance, so completely blank on the synth. And on the synth channel, I'm going to open up a fruity limiter. So then from there, what you want to do is route the audio from the kick to the synth as a sidechain. And the easiest way to do that for me is to highlight this kick and then go click the arrow at the bottom of the synth, and then just turn it all the way down. It'll default to being a higher level. You just want to take it all the way down, and pretty much what that means is that the kick is sending here, the signal is sending there, but there's no audio actually getting routed out of this channel. And so once you do that, you go into your limiter and go to the compression window, and then you can just right click sidechain, and right there, anything that's routed to that channel will show up here. And in this case, it's just this kick, and so route it there. My pretty much default settings are that I just turn this ratio all the way up, and then I use the threshold to dial in the volume of the sidechain. Let's take a look at this really quick, and you'll see what's happening here now that we have it routed this way. So that kick's coming in, and the white represents the volume of the synth, and the purple represents the amount that the kick is taking away from there. You can really dial in the settings of this by, like I said, just cranking the ratio up, tweaking this to your taste, and then this release knob, you'll see what happens if I turn it all the way up. And vice versa, if I turn it down a good ways, you sort of get it doing the sidechain as fast as it possibly can, or slowing it down. I'm usually using the release a little bit faster than slower, but that's totally up to you and exactly what you're trying to do with the sidechain. The third method, and probably the most, I would say, surgical method, is to use a peak controller. Fruity peak controller is kind of weird, and it's a little bit trickier to dial in, so that's the only reason I wouldn't do this and don't do this like every single time, but I'll show you exactly how to set it up. And so you do need the same thing. You need both of the elements that you're trying to sidechain linked to the mixer, kick, or the source channel pretty much. And the initial way that I usually set this up is I take the bass up to 50%, and then I take the volume down. You know, it doesn't really matter. You're gonna see exactly what's happening here in a second, because I use this to sidechain and EQ a lot. So now that we have that, I'm gonna go open up an EQ on the 3x oscillator channel, or the synth channel. I'm gonna link a single point from this EQ, in this case 0.1, to that peak controller. So in order to do that, you just select the point, right click it, go to link to controller, internal controller, and then you go to peak. Not peak LFO, not LFO, just peak. Click it and accept it. And so now you'll see what's happening is that the kick is just sending a signal right here that's not doing anything, and then that signal is getting sent to this point, or pretty much this slider. And so what happens? It starts ducking out the low end. In this situation, that's like not useful at all because none of that synth is hitting there. But all we can do is just, let's move it up here. And now we're kind of getting that, same ducking effect that we were getting from the other ones, but we could do different stuff, like, you know, if I just reset this. What if we just wanted to peak the area where that synth is coming in, or we just wanted to sidechain the area where that synth is coming in? So I'll link point number 4 to the peak controller, and now watch. I can really dial that in to duck only that area. And so this is where you can start to do a lot more specific EQing and sidechaining, and you know, we could apply those to effects. One last kind of fun way that I'll show, and a little bit more of a creative way that you could use this, is you could just say have the kick duck the volume of this reverb. So I'll just link the dry wet knob of this reverb to the peak controller, and now watch what happens to this reverb. It's getting ducked. I'm gonna make it more extreme for this situation by turning the volume all the way down. If you turn the volume all the way down, you can see what's happening here. Even I'll turn this off, and we can just look at the peak controller. So I could make this do a lot of different things just by putting the bass at 50, but that can be a little tricky to dial in. So now you can see what the peak controller is doing to this reverb plugin. Ducking it down, same time it's ducking this, and that can just be super useful for a bunch of different reasons, especially the more creative you get with that trick. There's like a million ways to use that peak controller for doing creative FX and stuff like that. I think that's pretty much all I got for these, but I appreciate you watching. If you made it this far in, and go jump in my Discord or follow me on Patreon. I got a bunch of sample packs and stuff over there, so we'll see. I'm just going to keep making these tutorials, and I'll probably start to do some more advanced stuff, but I want to just cover the bases of things that I kind of wish that I was doing right when I started. So yeah, let me know if you got any questions, and I'll see you soon.